Welcome back to Focus Today, and what a delight to have back with us our good friends Michael and Lynn Wilder, founders of Ex-Mormon Christians United for Jesus. And you can go to unveilingmormonism.com is their website. And kind of interesting to have them on the program today because one of the big name Mormon people in the country has been in the news all weekend, Mitt Romney. And he met with President-elect Donald Trump. Hey, first of all, good to see you guys. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your staff and everybody there.
Thank you. What did you guys think of the election?
Well, how many hours are we on TV today?
You only got a few seconds here, Michael.
I was excited because I was worried about the Supreme Court. That's what it comes down to. And I wanted the country to have a good conservative Supreme Court, or a Supreme Court interpreted by justice who believe in the way it was written. And to me, that seems to be more of conservative values than progressive values. So that's my take on it. So is Donald Trump a perfect person? No. But then I look at myself in the mirror and say, am I a perfect person? No. I am saved by his grace, not because of anything I've done.
Well, you validate what's been said, that he won on a three-legged stool. Those who voted literally for Trump, those who voted for a Supreme Court, and those who voted against the establishment.
Yeah.
Well, listen, you know, Mitt Romney came very close to winning, but one of the reasons why he didn't win is that the evangelical community didn't support his faith. And now he's called President-elect Trump everything, every name, everything in the book, and yet he got invited to be considered for one of the highest office of the land. What's your take on that?
I'd say Trump is trying to mend fences, I suppose. I can't imagine that he will be chosen given the kind of hostile past they have. But wow, this is, you know, all rules seem to be new these days.
Yeah. I think it's more of a political move. This is me speaking personally. I have no empirical evidence. But the fact is that one of the key factors that Trump won was he did get the backing of the evangelical vote, the Christian vote. I love what, Pence always states, that he's a Christian first, he's a family man second, and he's a politician third. So that's the way. And again, Pence does not push any particular agenda in Christianity. He's just a born-again Christian. I love that factor about him, but it was the fact that the evangelical vote came out and really supported him, and Romney didn't get that. If they look back at the stats, he did not get that. In fact, I know of a website that I saw back in 2012 where there was at least 6 million people who were Christians who signed up who said they would not vote for Romney because of his Mormon background. And again, what we're trying to say, we're not trying to be mean against the Mormons. We're not trying to upset anybody. Is that Mormon doctrine is not Christian doctrine. And if you're a biblical Christian, you see a conflict, and especially when a group of people, as the Mormons do now, say we're Christians too, and they do not align up with Christianity, but they say they do. I've got a problem with that. And I think 6 million people back in 2012 had a problem with it too.
Barry, I don't know if you saw the news yesterday, but one of the LDS 12 apostles is actually going to do the prayer. And let me see, Elder Christofferson, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Quorum of the 12 Apostles, is going to pray in the Senate on December 7th. And this is because he was invited by, let me see, who's Orrin Hatch, who's also very LDS and over the Senate right now, pro tem. And while Elder Christofferson is in Washington, Orrin Hatch has also arranged for him to go to the Library of Congress at an event that is recognizing the Book of Mormon and honoring the Book of Mormon in an American Reads exhibit. And Orrin Hatch will be going with Elder Christofferson to both of those events.
Yeah.
Mormons still have quite a bit of influence. You would be so interested. Last month, something came out called Mormon Leaks. So similar to WikiLeaks, right? Someone leaked 14 videos of the top Mormon leaders having meetings. And in one of those videos, it was your former U.S. Senator, Smith. Let's see. Gordon Smith talking to the heads of the Mormon Church. And this came out in the news in October. And this particular article that I'm looking at now came out of KUOW from Seattle. What was said when Senator Smith was talking to the heads of the Mormon Church were some very interesting things. They talked about proselytizing in Islamic countries, opening doors. Apparently, somebody by the name of Ralph Hardy represents the Mormon Church in D.C., and he would call the U.S. Senator from time to time and say that the Mormon Church needed a meeting in Belgium or in Rome or in Madrid. Those were 3 examples he gave. And he said, as a U.S. Senator, then I certainly could arrange those things, and he did. It was a little surprising, I think, to people just how much the Mormon Church had contact with the senator. But he's not the only one. There are 7 senators who are LDS, and that means 14% of the U.S. Senate would be Latter-day Saint. However, the general population in the United States is only about 2% LDS.
Yeah. What's interesting is that, to my understanding, is that all 7 senators have temple recommends, which means they've made covenants to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And when this guy was speaking, from the senator from Oregon was speaking to the brethren, the church leaders, the LDS church leaders, is what they call them, the brethren, he stated to them that he remembered his calling as a high priest in the LDS church, and he has not forgotten the covenant that he has made in the temple to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and that he was at their disposal, basically, for any help. They use a term which I did not understand years ago called church broke. It's a term used that he says, my office is church broke, which means I'm waiting for instructions to any way I can do to help the growth of the LDS church. Again, it's not like a Christian who's trying to increase Christianity throughout the land, which is fine. It's what we're to do. But in the LDS church, it's not about the growth of Christianity. It's about the growth of the LDS church and the influence of the LDS church. And that's a big difference.
I had the opportunity to watch that video. It was sent to me. I watched it with great interest. And I got to tell you, I wasn't sure of what I was watching. I mean, I knew it was former U.S. Senator Gordon Smith from Oregon addressing the brethren of the leadership of the LDS Church. I did hear exactly what you just said, Michael, and that was that he remembered his covenants as a priest and et cetera. But, you know, other than that, it was lingo that I couldn't translate. And I don't even know why he was there. Was he there to make a report? I mean, what's the deal?
I suppose he was there to make a report, and he was a senator at the time. It wasn't like he had been released and then he was telling the brethren all the things that he had accomplished for the church. He was a senator at the time. Here are a couple more things from that article. Senator Smith told the brethren about the inestimable power of having senators who respond to the church's call for help, and said that he regarded his temple recommend as more important than his election certificate. Interesting, huh? And he said that once when this Brother Hardy from the church called him, Smith. He said that he actually called in the Indian ambassador and got him to personally approve visas for church missionaries. So, I mean, that's certainly what they are after, is influence for the Mormon church around the world and opening doors, helping opening doors. So, you know, I got to thinking, if other churches use the government for influence and stuff, I don't know. I mean, this is all these are new ideas.
But some would say he's just defending his faith. He's just doing his thing. He would do what any person would do for what they believe, whatever their faith would be. But something else came out of it. I got to take a break. Let me plant a question in your head, and we'll talk about it when we get back. And that's back to the election just for a moment. And that is that Utah put up its own candidate for president that could have cost Trump the election. The fallout from that, criticism against the Mormon church, which basically said that you guys are willing to throw the election to Hillary Clinton in all of her nonsense for the sake of what? How do you defend that in your faith? We'll be right back with Michael and Lynn Wilder in just a moment.
I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Okay, we're back with our good friends Michael and Lynn Wilder. They're founders of the Ex-Mormon Christians United for Jesus. You got to go to their website, unveilingmormonism.com, and you can also obtain the book. It's at Evangelical at the mall, and it's also at Christian Discount Books there in Jacksonville. It's called Unveiling Grace. Now, this book not only tells their story, which is fascinating, believe me, a story that you just got to read, but it also gives you a tremendous resource in the back comparing scriptures and references of Mormonism versus evangelicalism. So you may want to check it out. It's a great resource. All right, Michael and Lynn, we Christians, the Christian church, basically is said under the name of separation of church and state, shut up and sit down. But the Mormon church almost threw the election to Hillary by running a Mormon candidate in the state of Utah. What in the world was that all about?
Wow, wasn't that interesting? Mormons have always been, by and large, staunch conservative Republicans, and we were shocked at first and had to kind of watch what was going on. And of course, I don't know that no one knows the answer to this, but some ideas might be Romney was close to the Bush family and several of the other traditional Republican leaders, and certainly he's been kind of a traditional conservative leader of the Republican Party. And Trump came along to kind of kick against even those folks. And so I don't know if they were afraid then of losing their power within the Republican Party, but certainly that was fascinating. And then what was even more fascinating to me was that Utah ended up going for Trump, which means a lot of folks didn't vote for their Mormon candidate.
Yeah. I think, and again, this is me speaking personally, I just think that the LDS Church uses a lot of influence. And they're heavily involved in both parties, the Republican Party and also the Democratic. You can't forget about Harry Reid. And they've had influence on both sides. They cover their bases very well. I really felt they could not buy Donald Trump. I think he was going to be independent. I think he wanted to have what was best for the nation and not what was best for the LDS Church. That's me speaking personally. I think that with the situation with the Republican Mormons, this is the fact behind the facts, is that they were hoping, remember, it was Paul Ryan who did not get along with Trump very well. And Paul Ryan was the running mate of Mitt Romney back in 2012. So they have connections in the House. If McMullin could have tilted the race upside down, in other words, that Trump could not win and Hillary could not win. If he could win enough electoral votes in Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah, that would have gone to Trump, and Trump could have gotten enough not to become president, but very close, robbing electoral votes from Hillary, then nobody would have had the 270. If nobody would have had the 270, the way the next president would have been elected would be going to the House of Representatives. And again, with the connections of Paul Ryan and other conservative Republicans, and a lot of them didn't like Trump because he was not per se party Republicans, they would have hopefully voted for McMullin to be our new president. That could theoretically have happened. That's what their plan. But the fact that the Deseret News came out, and the Deseret News, the Deseret News is owned by the LDS Church. Nothing is, even though when they made the editorial of the Deseret News said they could not support Trump, the fact is, the Deseret News, nothing comes in through the Deseret News that's not approved by the LDS Church. That's me speaking personally, but that's just by living in Utah. Utah is a theocracy. Nothing happens in Utah unless it's got the stamp of the LDS Church.
Well, the LDS Church owns Deseret News. They own the local TV station KSL, and they own 26 actually other radio stations.
Let me ask you this. Was McMullin handpicked by Romney?
Yes, I do believe so. Yes. They wanted Romney to run. Romney said no. Again, I'm just speculating. But yes, Romney came out, and you know what he said back in, was it March or May or last spring about Trump? I mean, these were never Trumpers. And these were people that were absolutely going to try to stop him and do whatever they could. So the political group that backed this McMullin wanted actually Romney to run, and he did not. But yes, this guy is a BYU grad. He's an ex-CIA agent, okay? He's involved in very LDS, probably a temple-going Mormon and everything else, and he drew 22% of the vote. That's a pretty good chunk. I'm surprised he didn't pull more. I've talked to some Mormons. I don't talk a lot of politics, but I was just listening, and a lot of people I know were voting for him because they did not like Trump. They stated more against Trump than they did Hillary.
There's two questions that come out of this. One is, I don't know how the Mormon Church can call themselves apolitical when they were about ready to throw the election to Hillary. And number two, is it true, and maybe you would know this, Lynn, from being there at BYU, is it true that Mormon theology encouraged Mormons to get involved at all levels of government?
It's probably not theology. It would not be in their scriptures, but certainly Mormons believe that one way to grow the church is to be in important, powerful positions like the CIA, military, FBI, and then to be an excellent example that other people wanted to follow. Mike and I tried to do that, and we didn't see anything wrong with that. We really thought we were promoting the Church of Jesus Christ. And so, I mean, these are probably very sincere people. But I think I've told you before, now the Jesus that I have, the God that I know, is so large, he can blow his nostrils and change things. And so that God that I thought needed so much help doesn't need all of my help. It's a very different way of looking at things, but certainly Mormons do believe that they are honestly working to help their God do something good. And one of those things is They need to have a president of the United States at some point if they're going to fulfill the white horse prophecy from Joseph Smith.
Well, this is interesting times because it looks like that Trump may be a little bit more tolerant of all religions than the left. I mean, isn't that an odd thing?
Yeah, that could be very well true. And again, when you go back and look at everything, he just wants everything to be done properly according to the U.S. laws. And that's what this is all about. You know, we've had this discussion about, you know, a lot of people say, well, Hillary won the popular vote. Well, yeah, she did. But I always wonder how many illegal aliens voted in these sanctuary cities that all you have to do is show up and give an address and you're given a voting card. So it's, you know, it's interesting to see. But yeah, all I know is that God's in control. And we just go along with him. We try to preach the good news, and that's what it comes down to, is the good news, and then he'll handle everything else. And so that's what we try to do.
By the way, the response to your ministry, let me just say to our viewers and listeners, Ex-Mormon Christians United for Jesus, both Michael and Lynn were high up in various parts of the church and within the university. But they have now encountered the biblical Jesus. They've had an incredible relationship, and their ministry is to reach back in love to Mormons and show them the difference between the real and really the difference between works and grace. How's it going?
Well, you know, Perry, we see our ministry is actually twofold. Certainly helping Mormons come to know the true Jesus of the Bible, but also educating Christians so that they don't go into Mormonism. 83% of folks that join the Mormon Church come right out of biblical Christianity, people like us that had been raised kind of nominally Christian but didn't know the word. And so that is just as important for us, is kind of this voice of warning. I'm really glad that you brought up the ministry. I got an email this morning. This is why we do this, Perry. I have recently left the Mormon Church, he says. I did a Google search on Mormons converting to Christianity, and I came across a YouTube video about your family, and then to your website. As the days of my leaving the church grow longer, I realize how distorted my understanding of Jesus our Savior and the Holy Ghost and even God are. How the church's constant repetition of testimony seems like actual brainwashing. And I need help in understanding what I've been through for the past 30 years. It has been hard. I am in a spirit-filled, Bible-based church now, but sometimes I just feel lost. I would really love to talk to someone else who was a convert to the church and has now left the church for Jesus. Thank you.
Well, I can't say. I got about a minute left. Were you going to say something, Michael?
No, that's the whole concept. Two things. One, we want to educate Christians what Mormonism really is so they can make an intelligent decision. If you want to join Mormonism, that's fine. Just don't call yourself a biblical Christian. Two, for those who are coming out of Mormonism, who's been misled about the teachings and the doctrines of Mormonism, we want people to understand the truth on that. And once they understand the truth, and once you get into the Word of God, and God opens up your eyes, and He removes that veil,
Gotta go.
The Scriptures become a light.
Gotta go. Sorry about that. Go to unveilingmormonism.com. That's their website. Check out Unveiling Grace. That's their book. Thank you, Michael. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to both of you.